Ask you guys something. A little curious. Not like I'm gonna get an answer that's gonna be satisfying in any way, but something that I've been thinking about. Because I have a lot to say, and I don't know if this is all consecutive with each other. I don't know if this is gonna like even flow, because it seems to be a couple topics, but we'll see if we can tie it. I'm watching a series on PBS, Ken Burns' The Vietnam War, right? I don't know what it is, but I fucking love it. Not like I love what it's about, or, I'm, proud or condoning warfare and shit. No. I don't know what it is, but it's just, I really appreciate the amount of effort that was put into just how it all happened. And I also just love Ken Burns, his documentaries. I always really have. But anyway, so I'm watching that, and I'm like seeing the war ramping up, getting worse and worse and worse. And I just wonder to myself, and this is my question: do you think that we can put out there and it stays out there? The violence, the amount of concussive fucking bombs that have gone off, the deaths that happen because of conflicts. Do you think that that stays? Or is that a come and go kind of thing? If you go to a foreign country and you're fighting there for whatever reason, pick any war you want, and you're there fighting, and bombs have to go off, guns have to be fired, people have to die, women get raped, fucking children get killed too. It's like horrible. And we can get into the whole for what, because I do feel that way sometimes, like for what? But my question is, when it's happening, all that energy, all the energy from the weapons and the people, do you think that stays? Think that displaces itself in other places, and that's why we can find ourselves coming to a crescendo of what we believe to be the end of a civilization? Not just like, because you can get into the nuts and bolts and say like, well, the choices made by said country can lead to its downfall. Of course, right? But what about the energy expended? And this came to me as I was watching some aerial shots of them dropping bombs. Every time I look at Vietnam, it looks like they're just dropping bombs on trees. You know what I mean? Like, I don't see any people, right? And you see it hit the ground, and then like a little explosion, and then that concussive just sonic wave from the sound and the energy, however the fuck it works. And I was like, where does that go? All that violence, like, where does that go? Is that just like, and then it was done, and then like trees grew back, and it's like it never happened? Or does it fucking stay? Especially in Vietnam, I'm looking at all the Agent Orange they use, and all the shit to kill, the foliage and all that. Plants remember, man. And so I have a really hard time with these thoughts. Because again, like I said, we could talk about like, yeah, these actions led to this outcome, which in turn led to your downfall. You could look at it that way. The choices you make in the society you have will lead to your doom. I just merely say, what about the things you've done physically? And like physically, and how it stays in the mind. So if you're in an abusive relationship and you hit your spouse, that isn't just like, yeah, you hit them and it goes away and then that's that. Like, no, like that has affected a mental state. Like that person that was abused isn't gonna like, oh, I don't remember if I was hit. They're gonna know it. And so not even just on that level, but what about the physical level that's beyond like consciousness? Does that stay? Does violence, I guess my overall question is, does it recycle? Can you reuse it? It's a strange question. It really is. I understand that, but it's something that I can't help but kind of feel. That there's something about physical violence that people do to each other, whether it's the weapons they make or the hands they lay upon each other or whatever the hell it happens to be. Like, I'm like, where does that go? Far beyond our comprehension of it. Far beyond the, when we start looking at places where battles happen and you can see the wounded land, and it comes back quick. But like far beyond human understanding of the land that was destroyed, the trees, all the people that died there. What stays there? I really feel like there's something that stays there. Same with even lesser violent things, and we're talking like abusive relationships that are maybe verbal or mental, can stay in homes and stuff. And we've always interpreted this shit maybe as ghosts and stuff, but like, what if that's just, how they talk about residuals when they talk about paranormal things? There's like a residual energy, right? It's just kind of like something strong enough that happened that stays in the area. And I feel like that's scratching the surface on what we're talking about here. Where seemingly, unless we're just not detecting the other side, but seemingly, it seems like negative energies have a lasting power. That they seem to stay, they seem to be something that doesn't go away with ease. And I wonder if those residual energies can enter us. Like, the kind of people that formed their country in a violent way seems to kind of stay. But also, it kind of affects the way that they view things. If you look at the American country, you would say, like, as an outsider, I imagine people see us as kind of violent, in a way, based on the wars we've had for the reasonings. And then I thought about this. Well, you got to think about the Revolutionary War. When I look at that and hear about it, I just think, what a bunch of whiny fucking people that are building mountains out of molehills. And then are goading and goading and poking and poking and poking and poking. And finally a British soldier shoots one of them. And they're like, that was uncalled for. And that's the American way. We will poke the fuck out of you until you eventually like react. And then we'll be like, you motherfucker. Be prepared to die. That's just how we are. You look at our whole fucking history, it's like that. And it's this victim mentality shit. We place our asses right where we shouldn't be and then wonder why we're like, and it's a very Christian thing, an ancient Christian tradition, seemingly. Putting your ass in places where you don't belong, and then when someone finally reacts, you go like, see? I knew they were fucking evil pagans. It's stupid. We've always done that. And so it's that residual mentality. And then the violence is the residual nature of what happened to the native people here. And I'm not going to pretend that this has never happened in the history of humanity. That a group of people didn't come to a land they didn't belong to and take it over. Like, go look at the entirety of Europe and Africa and Asia. Like, that's all they did too. We've all done it. It's not a new phenomena. It just happened here because it had happened in Europe, and now all of a sudden it's happening here, right? So like I'm not gonna get any qualms about that, but my point is like the violence was born. And there's residual energy hanging out. And when places that used to be sacred, this is something the Christians did too, now all of a sudden aren't getting that sacred attention. So you look at American politics and what we fucking know, and that's like sacred Native American land, it's not being paid homage to properly. What if those were things that held on to darkness, if you for some reason needed to use these as tools? And now it's free, and it affects the people, and violence grows. Now, I raise all of this to go back to my original question, what if violence and dark things stay? And what if there's a way to purge them, and it's not be peaceful and don't fight anymore and universal love and shit? Like, what if it's bigger than that? What if the fact that we have a, seemingly, as an American culture, a war god that is for some reason on our side, and we have this territorial bullshit going on, what if some aspects of older religion could stop this? What if some aspects of the archetypal gods that we use as constructs of the mind could in some way absorb this? Because maybe there's a machine happening that we can't quite comprehend. I know this topic is probably strange in all of its ways, but I can't help but feel it. And I want to bring you to something that I wondered if I could tie into this or not, and maybe I can. Because this is a separate thought, and I really wanted to explore this too. I do wonder about when our groups of people hold on to ideals, American ideal, Christian, right? Those are the two big ones. I know there's more than that, but we're just going to focus on that. And I think about the thought forms you put inside of these two things and how much energy and power they truly have. We say things like the American people is as if America is a living being, that we all are in sync, in order, all doing the same thing. And you think about Christians, right? They're all doing the same, they all believe the same fucking thing. That's very, very dangerous and very ignorant. As I'm getting older, I'm noticing. Because there is so much wicked power that can hide inside of your thought forms. All of your bad intent and everyone else's adds to it, like charging a battery. And this battery, once fully charged, can, in a sense, become this malevolent force that we can give whatever name we want, but it's just a releasing of energy. We could call it the devil, the demons, we could call it angels, but it's just good or bad on both sides of the spectrum. You can give power to thought forms to the point where they manifest into living, we could say, entities. But in reality, they're expelling a force. That's why we say, wow, it was a powder keg when that was going on, and then it just exploded, and all of a sudden, Tea Party. Or all of a sudden, this fucking happened. It's because that's how the natural process works. We can identify it, but we're too afraid to realize that it can be manipulated. You know what I'm talking about? When you look at any incident in history, you can just see it's just building to this point, and oh, it's going to just go, and some bad shit's going to happen. Like we see with a lot of people believe it's going to be a race war, and a lot of people believe it's going to be a civil war, and whatever the fuck you believe, you're making that. Every time you add to it, man. Good or bad. And I wonder at our dead in that case, because you believe in such a force. You create your heaven with Christianity. You create your idea of the American heaven with being an American Christian. And it's created, as the Rosicrucians would say, which is an occultic people, you've created almost like a cathedral. You create like a place where the souls can inhabit, and you can be inside of it. It's bizarre shit, but it's the same fucking thing. You just put Christ in front of that door to allow you in. He's the one that transcends you into this heaven. And here's where I'm starting to get into the topic, so I guess it does connect. I don't know what that fucking place is, and I don't know if I should trust it, because I'm deathly afraid of what the reality of the situation may be. And what is going on to those people, far beyond the people that have died, in the name of, in this case, some sort of American ideal, at any point in history, or a Christian ideal, right? Either or. From being killed by Balkan pagans as a Christian, to being murdered in Vietnam as an American for some fucking ideal that you think is happening. And here's the connection. Halloween, Samhain of this year, I went and visited my grandfather. Normal guy, worked his job, had his problems, wasn't overly religious, I don't think. Didn't seem to come up. Probably was at least like a Protestant, and was just kind of like, go to church every once in a while, believe in God and all that. And he did. And he passed away. I went and visited his grave on Halloween. I made that video I told you about. Had a long talk at the grave. Talked to him when the veil was thinnest. Created a connection there. I saw him in my mind, and then he was buried next to his parents, so my great-grandparents. I felt like I was talking to them in a living room, and they were sitting on their couches, and I could see it was an old, like, late 80s couch or something, because it was just a floral print that was on it, and the floor, the way it looked. I don't know. I felt like I just was talking to him in some sort of room that existed in the past that I don't have any memory of, but maybe I do. And they were listening to me. I saw them in their younger form, though. Now, I thought that was fine and dandy. And before I left, I had 2 of these stones. And I left one at his grave. There's like a little cup that's built in the side of it. You can put flowers in. I put it inside of that. And I took the other one. When I returned home, that whole day was very, like, just something haunty about it. Because it was Samhain and shit. The veil's the thinnest. And it just felt like a little bit, something wasn't right. But I couldn't put my name on it. I couldn't put the words upon the sensation I was feeling. I don't know. But I felt watched in a sense. And when I realized that something crazy might be happening, I realized I was laying in my bed. I was probably watching a video or something. And I had one of the cats sitting right next to me. He was cleaning himself. Nothing crazy. Then out of nowhere, he let out this incredibly loud hiss. Like when a cat's fucking terrified. It's trying to scare the enemy away from them. It lets this hiss out. I'm not going to recreate it because you know what I'm talking about. It did that, and then he booked it under the bed and hid under there for a while. Meanwhile, the other cats were just kind of acting strange and stuff. And then the day went away. And then over the times, I'm realizing, man, now I'm not remembering my dreams. That was the point where it started to happen. Now my sleep, I just feel absolutely awful when I wake up. Nose is so incredibly packed. My throat is always really sore. I'm exhausted. I just feel really weird after every sleep. I just don't feel right. And I realized there's a doorway created. And I might be being plagued. Someone of an Abrahamic faith would say there's a possibility that there's some portal to some bad place. Whether even neutrally bad, like purgatory. And because he might be in that, that's what you opened up. And all these souls that need help, or these succubus kind of things, or kind of vampiric, maybe not for in an evil way, but in a way of like just trying to stay alive, are feasting on you in a spiritual way. And you could believe it's purgatory or hell, I don't know. But I'm like, well, what if you aren't a Christian though? Or what if the place that these souls are going is a lie? And that they're actually being harvested for some purpose? I'm not saying, and that's what I believe, and that's what we're going to go with. But it's just a fucking thought because I think back to the book I'm making. You must understand that a lot of the things I do in my book I make, it's just in real time. I'm doing it, and I don't have a whole lot of like, and then I'll like mock this, and then I'll think of that. It just happens. And when I created my great society for my lead character to live in, a place called the Drana, where they worship Oapake, and I found a way to say, well, what if like another god took Opake's place and he's tricking the people because he's harvesting power from their prayers. And when the dead are dying, he's hijacking their line and using those dead souls instead of, going back and, what would the word be, being reincarnated into new life. They're being harvested and put inside of some, as I've termed it for now, a dark army. And then the idea of Revelation, when Jesus will come back, is very much the same in my book, where it's like, yeah, there is a revelation, it's coming back, but it ain't what you fucking think it is. You might be on the wrong side. And that's just what I do with my book, right? But I can't help but look at that and go, wait, what if there's some truth to this? I don't know. And that's the idea of the violence born and expelled and used. And that's the idea of Abrahamic faith creating its way of thought so that you may enter it upon death. And but what if you're entering it upon death isn't exactly what you think it is? We always claim we fucking know. We know. We already know because liturgically it says this, because in our text it says that, and all this stuff, it just says it, so we fucking know. And I think to myself, well, that's a thought form if I've ever heard one. And that's where I'm kind of nervous. And I don't necessarily know how to feel about all that. I do know that I'm going to hear everything under the sun about how wrong that is, because why wouldn't it be wrong, right? Of course it's fucking wrong. It's because it's a different thought. Well, it's not. It doesn't go with the thought that billions of people have put into this. So obviously I'm the one that's wrong, right? Because more people say that they're right. So I know I'll never get any concise, like, sensation of like, oh yeah, like we totally understand what you're talking about. I'm going to be alone on this one. But I just wonder about the powers that are at work. And what if they're not what we think they are? And what if the shit we do to each other, so the violence, we take it for granted so much that we don't realize just what that's actually doing here. You're birthing and opening doors of this violence to enter. When I throw a bomb down, for instance, in Vietnam, in seemingly that fucking bit of jungle, and it hits the ground, blows up, and then you see that concussive, like, it almost looks like, you can see the sonic boom from it coming out. Looks like a little cloud. That doesn't just go, and that happened there, and it's over, and that's it. What if that just stays? And that violence can eventually find people. And if there's the wrong force at the head of these people, it can use that for its own gain. The American expansionistic wickedness, well, you look back at what we did to the natives here. You look back at the wars we fought, and you think, and we fought ourselves. And you say, all that power, alongside with the power that humans can give on a natural state through their consciousness, right? Unity consciousness, and how it's a force that can be used. You use those two at the figurehead of the philosophy, and that philosophy is built around Americanism and Christianity. Well, gee whiz, even if Christianity was a good thing, it ain't no anymore. And I can't believe a God would allow that to be. In the name of all the evil shit that's happened, in the name of, I can't believe that. He's a fickle God. Like, no, come on. Like, I just can't believe that. I simply cannot. That a God would want crusades, death and slavery. Well, it sounds like he's the old God, doesn't it? Yahweh, you can have those slaves if you do this. Like, that's kind of fucking weird, isn't it? That's someone that doesn't give a fuck about you. If they're willing to look at someone that's not directly in their eyesight, it doesn't matter. Use them as slaves if you want. Take the land. You can have this land that's theirs. That doesn't sound like a God that gives a fuck about a lot of people. Sounds like he cares about one group of people, and then that's suspicious. That sounds misinterpreting, if anything. And all the conflicts that have come from that, forced conversions, I'm like, I personally can't see it. I've come to the point in my life where I cannot unsee the reality of humanity and their interpretations of what's greater than them. I simply cannot. And I'm sorry if there's anyone that is Christian and they feel that this is an affront or like an attack or just something negative. Well, I apologize. I'm not trying to be, but you must understand this is the room that I found myself to be in. But nothing against the people that believe in it. It's just I don't know what to trust. And just a lot of this seems kind of fucky. And I just think about it over and over and over again. Like, what if that energy expelled doesn't leave? It goes into a new thing. And if it was born out of violence, what force was behind that at its highest power? You hear a lot of stories of ancient gods working through mankind or civilizations to do their bidding. Well, what if that's true? And what if there's not one only God? What if there's a bunch vying for fucking power? I don't know, man. That makes way more sense to me than anything, you know? Because if there was just one God, he wouldn't need to say there's only one God. You know what I'm saying? If there was one highest power God, he wouldn't need to tell people, hey, there's just me, and now you gotta follow this guy who is me reborn and my son in the same sentence to come back to me because of all the things you did, your sin. Use him to come back to my kingdom. I don't know, man. I don't know about this. It just, something ain't right. It's like, I know I keep saying that over and over again, but something ain't right. But I will say as a disclaimer, I don't think I have the answer. And like, this is it, and you need to fucking throw away all your shit and follow me, you know, like, no, it's nothing like that. This is my own musings in my own mind that I'm just throwing it out in my blog, or vlog, what do they call it? I'm not really trying to convince anyone. I don't care to hear all the other fucking things. It's just, this is just how I feel, man. And I don't necessarily know what to do with that. Because here I am writing my own novel, which is a mirror of my own life. And my character is at this fucking point where I'm just like, how the fuck, what is going on? And Eris, as well as me, the author, both like, I don't even know how to do, I don't know what's happening right now and what you're going through and why. And so I'm lost. But I don't think being lost is a bad thing, as much as everyone pretends it is. Like, oh, you're fucked. Like, no. Being lost means you're going into uncharted waters, and you must find yourself. And make sense of your surroundings that are alien. Nothing wrong with that. It's just difficult, that's all. Anyway, that's all I have to say about that, and hopefully that was something that can be gleaned from, I don't know. But it's out there. I'll either catch a lot of people telling me, oh, you're not going deep enough because, you know, fucking, they're so wise in the esoteric and occult that it's almost childlike, or how it's wicked. It's going to be one or the other. A lot of people won't respond at all because that's a normal person. But yeah, we'll see what the fuck comes from all this. I don't know. Not really sure.